Welcome back to week 4 of the New Leader Bootcamp. We're so thrilled that you're here. Today we have such an important topic. I think Tatiana probably would agree that this is one of the highest hurdles for new people leaders, from moving from I own the work, I'm responsible for my results, to shifting into I'm responsible for getting the best results out of other people. So today we're going to talk about how do you shift from being a task manager to a more visionary leader, and how do you unlock the accelerative power of strategic thinking to drive innovation. So I'm so excited about this topic, excited to be with you for week 4. And if you have not already registered so that you don't miss any of this series or the exciting 5th session that is a bonus that we have coming up in a couple weeks, make sure you head on over to the newleaderbootcamp.com, register so you don't miss out on any of this complimentary goodness. All right. So we're going to dive in today, much like we normally do, head into some introductions. Tatiana and I are back for the 4th week, but this may be your first week here. So we want to make sure that we're connected with you. We want to hear from you. So whether you're watching this live or on the replay, drop into the comments who you are, what you get to do. We want to learn more about the work that you get to do. And then we're going to dive right into strategic thinking as a leader. What does it look like? What does it sound like? What are some of the key differences to keep it at the top of your mind? How do you empower your team to think creatively? And then we'll wrap up with just some feedback for you as leaders. We want to hear from you in the comments. What has really helped you if you are a people leader? What has helped you to make this transition to being a better strategic thinker and a more visionary and innovative leader? So my name is Brittany Cole, again, founder and CEO of Career Thrivers. I'm a keynote speaker, and this is what I love. And I'm always excited to get to connect with incredible leaders like Tatiana to just really amplify the work that we get to do and to serve you in helping to develop you into the leader that you know that you can be. So my corporate background, I spent about 12 years at Pfizer before taking the leap, and I'm starting a leadership development firm working directly with corporations. It's so funny, yesterday I was filling out an application for something, and they asked me about my first job. So I had this epiphany while I was filling out the application, because my first ever job was with Ford Credit. It's formerly Primus. It's a corporate organization. I was just sitting there thinking, as I'm like typing my response to this question, that my career literally has always been in the corporate sector. Like, that's the space that I know. I was a commercial leader, so I led sales and marketing at Pfizer, did DEI work off the side of my desk, and was often the only in the room, the youngest in the room. And that experience really sparked a passion that had really always been there around developing leaders, but more so than developing leaders, how do you cultivate a culture where any leader can thrive, even if you are the only in the room, even if you're the only woman or the only person of color or the only Black professional or the youngest. So that really sparked this passion to start speaking more about just my own career advancement, to start coaching, and then to starting Career Thrivers, which I'm really, really proud. We're coming up on 5 years. And just last year, we were recognized by Manage HR as one of the top learning and development companies. And so we partner with organizations to help them to retain talent. Tatiana, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, awesome. Thank you so much. Well, I'm Tatiana O'Hara, and I am a team and leadership development consultant. I've been in this line of work for almost 10 years now. I love everything that pertains to people operations and just the way that the business works and how the people that work within it affect, the bigger picture. So I studied at Kennesaw State University and got my degree in hospitality management. Thought I was going to go on to own a hotel chain or something in travel and tourism, but I landed in grocery retail. So I was a district manager for Aldi Foods for about 4 years. And there I learned so much about how people work in the workplace, working with different generations, people of, all different backgrounds and skill sets, and just socioeconomical statuses, all the things. And through learning how to lead people, I was able to take our district from one of the lowest performing to one of the highest performing, and did that by equipping my managers with the tools to properly delegate, to communicate to their team, to give, effective feedback, to receive feedback. And while I was there, I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. I've always had different businesses that I've run. But I just started to realize that the work that I was doing at Aldi, I loved it so much that I wanted to do it on a bigger scale. And so in 2019, I left that position to start my consulting company that I have run ever since, and have worked with hundreds of small business owners ranging from, mom and pop restaurants to marketing agencies to fashion brands, all the way up to working in the B2B sector with different ERGs within Amazon. And so my goal is really to kind of bridge the gap between the structure that we find in corporate workspaces and that flexibility that we tend to find in entrepreneurial workspaces, and kind of sharing that knowledge back and forth between the two different sectors. And I really love working with first-time people leaders. I was a first-time people leader myself when I was in my role at Aldi, and most of my managers were first-time people leaders, and same with a lot of my small business clients. So I find that that is the group that tends to be overlooked the most. We go from managing processes and projects to managing people, and sometimes there's a big gap in that training. So that's where I tend to fall, but I'm really excited to be here with you all today and to wrap up this series. We've been going strong for the last 3 weeks, and we've learned a lot of really great things. So I'm excited to kind of put a pretty bow on it today.
Awesome. And so we want to hear from you, and would love it if you introduce yourself. Now, we see you on LinkedIn, okay? Y'all are here, y'all are tuned in. And so question for you that I dropped into the comments here. Hopefully you can see it. But perhaps, and any prompt you want to answer is totally fine. But what's one thing that you are most excited to be working on right now? It could be a project, it could be your day-to-day, maybe it's a special assignment that you are really excited about. But what's that one thing that you are really excited to be working on right now? Feel free to drop that into the comments. Let us know where you're tuning in from. And then what are you hoping to take away from today? All right. So we're excited about this. And also, I wanted to add to what Tatiana shared. We're wrapping up our kind of 4-part every week series today, but we'll be back in 2 weeks to really share with you kind of a culmination. So if you missed any of the sessions, don't fret. We've got one more session after this in 2 weeks, and so you'll definitely want to join us for that. And that's really why you want to make sure you head on over to thenewleaderbootcamp.com. We'll be sending you an email out with information about it. We'll also post it on LinkedIn, of course, as well. But just save the date. I believe it's July the 9th, if I have that date right. July the 9th. Okay. July the 9th, and so make sure you save that date and stay tuned, and then go to thenewleaderbootcamp.com so that you can register so that you don't miss that. All right, let's dive in. So the skill of strategic thinking, what is it? What does it look like? So quick story, I mentioned that my corporate background, the bulk of it I spent at Pfizer. So the first maybe 9 years or so I was in sales, transitioned into a marketing role, and I can remember like literally being maybe 30 days in and getting this huge project laid on my desk that was like, hey, here's something that we've been thinking about doing. It aligns with digital marketing, this kind of new role that had been created and that I was responsible for. I was in this kind of newly created role that was structured in a different way, and got this project to test out on a different platform. So, and this is pharmaceutical sales. So when I say this, you're probably like, Facebook was new. Facebook wasn't new, but to us it was, right? Doing advertising on Facebook was very new from a patient perspective, of course. And so got this project to test out this new way of reaching our customers. And I can remember when I first got the project thinking like, I don't have like any details. I don't really like know where to start with this. Like I have the goal, I have the vision of where we kind of want to be, but I don't really know like what the next step is. And so one of the first things that I had to do was have a very specific one-on-one with my manager to say, okay, you've given me this task. I'm super excited about it. I appreciate that you trust me with such a big assignment. That was a big budget tied to this, and it was deemed an innovation project that not only was important for our brand, but across the brand. So there would be learnings that would be applied to other brands. So a lot of responsibility. On 4 weeks into the role, I'm having this one-on-one meeting with my leader, really trying to understand, okay, I understand what you've asked me to do. Okay, I have this vision, you want me to fill in the gaps and run with it, but why are we doing this, right? And I think one of the ways to think about strategic thinking is more often connected to the why than the what, right? So when you think about tactical execution, it's what? Hey, I need to, in sales, like I need to do this many calls with this many people. Marketing, I need to make sure that I have this message this many times, right? But strategy is more connected to why are we doing this and what's kind of the overall vision. So once I understood that better, I was then able to say, okay, here are the people that I need that are going to help me to move this forward. And we'll talk a little bit about stakeholder management in a second. So when you think about strategic thinking, it's really about analyzing a complex situation, anticipating future trends. We're anticipating that, hey, if we connect with our patients on the platform where they already are on Facebook, there's an opportunity for us to grow our market demand for the product from the patient side of things, right? Which was essentially the thinking. And then that's going to drive our long-term organizational goals. So we're not just doing this because it's a neat idea, but we have a goal for the brand, a goal for the business, and this is a new way to go about doing it. And so when you think about the benefit of strategic thinking, one of the big ones is that it really helps you when you are considering new ways to go about the business, new market entry, innovative approaches to maybe what you've been doing, or innovative ways to meet market demands and changes, right? One of the buzzwords in any industry right now is artificial intelligence, or buzz phrases, I should say, and rightfully so, because much like the internet changed our life, AI is and will change our life, change the way we work, change the way that we live in our homes, our lifestyles, and so there's a lot of conversation around that, which will change the business, and so making strategic thinking a very, very, very critical skill. So again, bottom line here, shifting from thinking about the what, oh, I need to get these things done, to really getting clear on the why, and then as a new people leader, communicating that why in a clear, concise, and compelling way to your team. Second thing that you want to consider, right, when you're thinking about strategic thinking is stakeholder management. So I get this new innovative project on my desk, has a huge budget tied to it. Hey, Brittany, this isn't just about the brand. This is about internal medicine marketing, the entire division. We're going to take the learnings that you are leading and apply them across all the brands. Great, no pressure, 4 weeks in, I got this, right? And so my next order of business after that one-on-one was to say, who do I need on my team to make this work? And I knew that I needed people that were more experienced than me, that were smarter than me, that were outside of my current team, because this was going to impact finance, it was going to impact operations, it was going to impact strategy, and it was going to impact the brand team. So I built a mini team. And what's wild when I think back about this experience, in terms of my corporate experience overall, it was probably one of the most rewarding experiences, because in that particular role, I did not have direct reports, but I had a team of 20 people, right? And so another skill set that I don't think we got to talk a lot about in this series, but leading without positional authority develops that skill. But that is also a skill set that is necessary when it comes to stakeholder management. So stakeholder management is all about moving from this idea of networking and just getting to know people to managing relationships. And the key to that is really understanding kind of the unwritten rules. There's that P word is coming up that we don't like to say in business, but it drives business politics, right? Understanding the politics of your work environment, meaning who has influence and power that may not be directly tied to their title, or that you may not have been privy to before you stepped into the leader role, making sure that you understand that. That's where emotional intelligence comes in. If you miss week 1 or week 2, go back and check those out, because emotional intelligence is going to help you to decipher and help you to manage those relationships, to really understand who has impact on how this project gets across the finish line. And this is important because, one, it enhances your influence as a leader, right? Being able to manage stakeholders again. And I almost, sometimes I think that being able to lead without positional authority develops a stronger and slightly more, I believe, accelerated leadership skill than even leading with positional authority, right? If you're able to, if we go back to the project that I've been sharing about, none of the 20 people on that team really had to do anything that I was kind of orchestrating or facilitating, right? Because they didn't report into me, and this was extra work for them, right? They were working on a project that was laid on my desk, but being able to communicate in a way that relays the vision, speaks to the innovation in terms of how this outcome will impact the business and shares what's in it for them, really builds the alignment, right? And so that's the other reason why this is important, because you want to align goals, right? So I had to understand what's important to all these people that I'm bringing in to really help me get this project across the finish line. And then I want to identify those people and really map out, okay, here's our project plan for how we're going to move this forward. So again, this could be an entire session in and of itself. We wanted to make sure to really set up for you, one, what is strategic thinking? And then two, how do you move strategy forward through stakeholder management, specifically when you're working with people who don't report into you. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tatiana. And I am happy to kick us off. All right. And so when you're thinking about strategic thinking, when you're thinking about stakeholder management, you want to think beyond just you, right? So if we're following this kind of same example, and I mentioned these other departments, right? I was on the brand side, but I knew I needed someone in finance, I needed strategy, I needed operations, I even needed some sales insight, right, as well. So you really want to, when you're thinking about as a new people leader, right, how do I develop this muscle of strategic thinking? How do I promote collaboration beyond who I meet with on a regular basis? Right? And this is really where, again, the skill of networking becomes really important, but it's really beyond how we traditionally think about networking, because you want to understand not only, who are you and what do you do, but then how does your work impact the business, and what are ways that we can amplify our work by working together, right? So you want to share knowledge, share insights, and really promote innovation in that way. All right. Okay, I think we had a little bit of a technical difficulty. We are live, ladies and gentlemen. This is not a recorded session, okay? We are here with you live. So give me just 1 second. I want to make sure that we keep rolling. And if you're a visual learner like me and you need those slides, I want to make sure that you have them. All right. So how do you think beyond your department? Drop into the chat and let me know, what does that look like for you, or any takeaways that you have from your own experience when it comes to thinking strategically, specifically building those alliances beyond your department. And I think this is something that when we think about this transition from working inside of one physical location to working remotely, this is actually one of the benefits of remote work, right? Because we are much more likely in today's day and time to be connected with, to reach out to form relationships and bonds with people who are beyond our like current sphere of influence than we have ever been before. And I think it's important that we see that as a benefit, right? And that you leverage the opportunity that many employers have taken to really upgrade their digital platforms to make that kind of cross collaboration more seamless. So whether it is you working directly with your kind of intranet systems to learn about people that might impact your business beyond your team, or it's you connecting and engaging in what I think of as like beyond the job description activities. So ERGs is a great example. It's one of the ways that I was able to build relationships so fast as a new leader in marketing when I had this new project, was because I was connected with these people beyond the ask that I was making, because we were a part of different committees together. So that's just a few ways that you can think about going beyond your department, but again, leveraging the benefit of being in this virtual environment, whatever your kind of company rules and policy is around in-office time versus working virtually, but really leveraging that as an opportunity to say, hey, I want to reach out and learn a little bit more about what you do, and finding ways to build those cross-functional relationships. All right. So I see Tatiana is back. We're going to add her to the stage. Tatiana, you have anything else to add on this thinking beyond your department? Let them know, hey, this is live, okay? We're not bringing any pre-recorded, like we are right here with you. That's why we want to see your comments in the chat. We want to hear from you because we are here in real time with you. Anything to add?
No, honestly, great save. I don't know what happened to my computer. I had to like shut down Chrome, but we're back so we can just keep on rolling. But thank you for that. All right, guys. So next, we're going to be talking about from going from a task manager to more of that visionary leader, right? And so the thing to think about here is identifying like where are you currently? Do you find yourself more in that task mindset where you are, you come into work for the day and you're thinking about what do I need to get done? What does my team need to get done? Maybe you're only thinking a week out, a couple days out, maybe a month out at most, or do you think you already kind of land on that big picture thinking side of things? So when it comes to going from one to the other, I think sometimes big picture thinking can kind of get this reputation as if you no longer care about the details. And it's not that, but it's more so that instead of just being so close to the one little part that you're working on, you see how it affects the bigger picture, right? And when we know how to do that, it helps us to prioritize a little bit better. It helps us to know when to pivot. I think that's a very important skill as a leader, right? Like, when is it time to pivot, try something different? When is it time to change a deadline, right? Or change the team that we have working on a particular project? And when we want to kind of make that transition, because visionary leaders are the ones that are leading the companies, they're the ones that are getting promotions, they're the ones that are leading these dynamic teams where the company culture is really strong. So that's where we all essentially want to get to eventually, right? So we have to start embracing that strategic thinking that Brittany was talking about, and then kind of aligning our tasks to what the long-term goals look like. So sometimes it can be helpful to like reverse engineer this, right? So kind of starting with the end goal in mind and then backing into what tasks do we need to get done in order for this thing to happen. If we as a team have a goal to reach a certain metric by the end of the quarter, or we have a project that needs to be wrapped up within the next 60 days, what is the big picture goal, right? What does it look like to be done with this thing? What does it look like to do it well? And then kind of backing into what are the tasks that actually need to be done to get there, right? Another way that you can kind of start to make this change is to really embrace cross-functional collaboration. So I know a lot of times, and even in some of my like current experiences, it can feel like within your own department that you're kind of in a silo, right? You work with your core people and that's it. Maybe every now and then the whole bigger team or the bigger unit will get together and you can kind of start to understand what each department is doing. But the more you can lead the charge of cross collaborating, the more it's going to help you to develop as a leader, of course, because you're going to start to have an eye for how to have those types of conversations. But also, it gets you noticed by everyone around you, right? And when people know that you are someone who's willing to kind of do that cross collaboration, you start to work with different people across the company, you start to get to know different people, and it only is going to really help expound upon your leadership. Encouraging your team members to propose creative solutions to challenges. So we're going to talk about kind of getting your team on board with creativity a little bit more in a minute. But, a good leader is always going to kind of rally the troops, so to speak, right? It's not all on you to come up with all the ideas and to come up with all the strategy. Of course, you lead that. But if you can kind of create this environment where your team is thinking creatively as well, then it takes a little bit of the pressure off of you to carry all the load, right? And also naturally, our team members start to develop and they become better leaders within their own roles when they're given the space to be creative and when that's kind of like the norm, right? It's expected. It's embraced. It's not something that, when someone has a creative idea, they speak up and then they're kind of shot down, right? Like everyone knows that creativity is valued here, essentially. Developing a vision that inspires and motivates your team toward future success. So again, you want to be that visionary leader, right? Then we have to carry the vision. But it's not only us who need to know the vision. The team needs to be not only, in the know of what the vision is, but they need to buy into it, right? They need to feel excited about the vision too. And also, I think it's helpful for them to see how their individual roles play a bigger part in that vision coming into fruition, right? And then finally, another just thought here is that you could implement a feedback loop. This can be between you and your team, just to continually refine the way that things are going within your specific unit or department, and to help improve those strategic initiatives over time. So again, when we're thinking about going from like that task manager to that visionary leader, it sounds like this really big leap, but it's not something that happens overnight. You don't just wake up and jump into being a visionary leader, right? It's these little steps and building blocks. So, you first start thinking about, well, what's the bigger picture? Then you're thinking about the vision and how to, intertwine the team into the vision. Then you're collaborating with other departments and so on and so forth. And the more you do these things, you're going to notice yourself slowly start to transition into that different mindset as a leader. Now, when we talk about sparking that creativity, so this is important because maybe and let me know in the chat if this has ever happened to you, but maybe you've had a team meeting of some sort and you ask a question and you ask everyone's thoughts, right? And it's just crickets, right? Or you ask, hey, we need a brainstorm or come up with some ideas, and it's just crickets. No one is saying anything. They're kind of waiting for you to decide what the thing is going to be and how we're going to move forward. And that can feel discouraging, right? It can feel like I'm on my own here and my team is just, here to do what's required of them and go home, right? But we can kind of create that environment where our team feels the ability to be more creative. And so it's up to us to really establish that safe space. And I think that easily starts with when people do speak up, really valuing what they're saying, listening to what they're saying. If it's not something that you can necessarily run with, right? If it's not an idea that can be implemented or something that can be used, then maybe we, pull parts of it or help to redirect them. But we never want to shut our team members down when they do speak up and when they are sharing their ideas. Really, our team members will have far better ideas than us 9 times out of 10, just because they're so much closer to the actual work, right? So they have a much better idea of like what will and won't work based on just being in it. Whereas we as leaders can sometimes, of course, depending on your role, but we can sometimes be a little far removed, right? And so our team members are really going to be like the most powerful tool that we have as it pertains to like those big picture ideas. Encouraging diverse perspectives and constructive criticism. So sometimes you can kind of create some really thought-provoking prompts to talk through in your meetings. So, let's say that we're having an issue with our project management system and we feel like it's super inefficient and we're trying to figure out like what's a better solution, how do we move forward from this? Sometimes asking the question, hey guys, our project management tool isn't efficient. What do you think we should do moving forward? Sometimes that question is so big and so loaded that instead of it prompting those good ideas, it can almost make our team members like shut down in a way because they just, it's not coming to them. So sometimes it's helpful to break it down and ask more direct and specific questions, right? So instead of, hey, we need to fix this whole thing, maybe the question is, what's one thing that would make, our weekly meetings more efficient? Or what's what is your least favorite part of task management within this tool? And what is an idea that you have of how to improve it? But by asking more specific questions, it can allow more people to speak up and for you to get those diverse perspectives, right? But sometimes, again, when our questions are too broad, it's almost like, the question of how are you? And everyone's default is, oh, I'm good. How are you? Right? But when you ask those more thoughtful, deeper questions, it can give you better responses. Providing resources and tools to support creative thinking. So this is a really big one. So it might be something as simple as hosting like a brainstorming session once a month, where, you kind of set the tone and the expectation at the beginning that, this is a free thinking space. You guys can just like spitball whatever you're thinking of. Nothing is off limits, right? Maybe sometimes it's, suggesting certain books or podcasts or outside resources that will kind of spark and generate creativity within your team. But then also when we are hearing those ideas come forward, it's important that we actually celebrate and recognize them as well, right? We want to acknowledge that our team members are speaking up and they're taking the initiative and all of that. And when we kind of do those things, when we encourage them to speak up, we create the environment for them to speak up, we celebrate them when they do that, then it's going to help foster that culture of experimentation, right? Where it's normal for us to experiment and to play and to figure things out together, and that we can learn from our failures and see how we can improve on them in the future. So if you have ever done anything to help your team think more creatively, please share them in the chat. I think it would be so great for everyone here live and watching the replay to hear, because Brittany and I do not know everything, right? You guys have probably tried different things that may have worked, or maybe they didn't work so great. But yes, definitely share those in the chat, and I will read them as soon as I see them on the screen. All right, so now when we talk about decision making as a leader is really important, because your ability to make good decisions and efficient decisions, right, is honestly one of the things that can kind of make or break the team. And I know that feels like a lot of pressure, but there are so many different things that you can kind of factor into your decision making to help you make better decisions over time. So first and foremost is using data-driven insights and analytics. So that's important, right? Whenever you have data available, we want to use that to our advantage. So if you're making decisions on, something that you're going to do around employee engagement, and you have survey data from employees, really factoring that in to see what is it that they want, what is it that they feel like they're not getting, what are they loving right now. If you need to make decisions around something that your team has KPIs for, then factoring that data in can be really helpful as well. Also doing a SWOT analysis, right? So we want to look at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of making this decision over another, or of the current situation, to help us make a better decision. I think it's our job as leaders to lean away from that emotional decision making and lean into the facts that have been presented to us, and the things that are sitting right in front of us. You can think of all of these, pieces of data and these analytics as tools and resources for you to make better decisions, right? And where possible, you can loop in your team into the decision-making process as well. I think this is also where that cross-collaboration helps a lot. And so maybe you're making a decision as the leader of a certain department, and you have another leader of another department that you get along very well with. You guys talk often. Maybe your departments are different. Maybe the work that you do is completely different. But even just being able to have conversations with your peers about how they've made decisions in the past can really support you. And then also, if it's a really, really big decision that's within your wheelhouse, sometimes it's nice to get your leader involved as well, and to come to the table with, hey, here's the decision I'm faced with. Here are the few options that I'm thinking of. Here's why I want to go this direction. Here's why I'm thinking to go this direction. Just wanted to get you involved in the conversation as well, to see if you had any thoughts. Sometimes that can be, as for your leader, that can be nice to hear, okay, this is their thought process. This is, they're taking an immense level of care and thought and putting thought into this process, especially when you come to the table having already considered all of the options, right? So we want to evaluate the risks and the benefits so that we can make informed decisions. Sometimes when you're under a time crunch, I think a lot of the logic can sometimes go out the window, because we're like, oh, we just got to make a decision. And I know they say a decision is better than no decision, right? Or, something like that. But the more that you can consider the facts and the data that you have in front of you, the more informed your decision is going to be in the long run. Involving your stakeholders in the decision-making process, always a good thing to do. And then implementing a structured decision-making framework. So this is huge. Maybe your company already has something like this, but if not, basically the way you can think about it is, after you've made so many decisions in your role, you likely have followed some sort of invisible framework that you just haven't documented yet. And that can be a really powerful tool, because when we're training up our team members, a lot of times we want them to be able to make decisions too. And sometimes it feels like, and maybe someone here can relate, but sometimes it feels like I can train my team on what to do, and they're really good at doing the things I teach them to do, but I haven't figured out how to train them how to think, right? I haven't figured out how to train the thought process so that in the long run, they're not as dependent on me. And that's where something like a decision-making framework can really come in handy. And then communicating decisions clearly and transparently to the team. So I think that's kind of like that final step in the decision making as a leader process, right? Is we want to loop in the team on the decisions that we've made, how it will affect them, what actions are going to be required on their part, and really, again, creating that buy in around the decision as well. All right, and then wrapping up here, we're going to talk about effective feedback to leadership. So, today we've been talking about strategic thinking and really thinking outside of your department and stop, only being that task manager and really starting to become that visionary leader. And so it is our role as leaders, right, to kind of bridge that gap between the team members that report directly to us and the leader that we report to. And so sometimes when the communication between those three levels isn't great, the team member and the highest level leader can feel disconnected and like they don't know what's going on either side of each other. And so it's really our job to fill that gap, right? So there's a couple different things that you want to consider. So one, right, like you're working with your team directly, you know what they need, you know what they have, what they don't have, right? And so it's our job to kind of advocate for our team, right, on their behalf. And so some of the things that you can do with your senior leadership is effectively communicating their achievements. So what is your team doing really well? What are they just crushing it at right now, right? But then also, what are some of their challenges? It could be challenges around like actual performance, right? Maybe you're noticing some training deficiencies that we need to correct, or maybe it's a lack of resources in a specific area, right? We want to highlight the impact of team contributions as well. So, again, when we're thinking about that big picture and we're becoming that visionary leader, we want to be able to kind of pinpoint the role that our team members play in achieving those long-term goals for the company. And when we can share those things with our leadership, like that's a really powerful thing because you get to, highlight your team member and give them their accolades, of course. But then also your leader really gets to see the impact of the work that you guys are doing together. It's one thing to know like, hey, our sales department took us to this level this quarter, but it's even better to know like some specifics around what Sally did, what Susie did, what Bobby did that really drove the initiative forward. We can also provide insights into team dynamics, the morale of our team, like the culture kind of within our unique department or area, and then areas for improvement that leadership might not be aware of. So again, your leader is likely not in super close contact with your team, right? Maybe they're checking in with them monthly or something like that. Of course, it depends on the environment that you work within. But it's important that we can kind of share these insights with them because a lot of times our leaders will say, oh, I had no idea you guys were struggling with this. I had no idea that you guys needed this. And so the more that we can kind of regularly include this in our communication, the better. And yeah, so essentially, the more that you can kind of start to have really strong, confident communication with your leader, the more that you're going to be able to better serve your team and better serve your organization in the long run, right? So it all kind of comes together. It all helps you to move into that role as that visionary leader. And so when we think about all the things that we've talked about over the last several weeks, we talked about, establishing that mindset of a leader, right? What does it mean to be confident in the way that you lead? We talked about change management and how to manage your team during uncertain times, how to maintain, really good communication with them and to relay information about what's going on. We talked about how to properly delegate, right? How do I actually lead a team from like an operational perspective? Now that I'm feeling confident and I know how to manage change, like what does the day-to-day of managing my team look like? And then now finally here on week 4, we're talking about how to kind of take all of that, put it together, start implementing it on a day-to-day basis, but then start to transition into being that more, of a visionary leader. And so this feedback loop between you and your direct leader is what's really going to bring it all together, right? Because then your leader can support you. Your leader can make sure that you have the things that you need, make sure that your team has the things that they need so that you can essentially, achieve your goals. So hopefully that was helpful. we're going to kind of wrap up by talking about what we're going to be talking about on July 9th. So this is our bonus session. You can sign up now for free at thenewleaderbootcamp.com. And what we're going to be doing is kind of applying everything that we've learned over the last 4 weeks, these essential leadership skills for the new leader toolkit, so to speak. And we're going to put it all together, right? And so if you missed week 1 and week 3, or if you missed week 2, don't fret, right? We're going to be kind of covering all of this in one space, one place. But also, if you have attended all 4 weeks, we definitely still want to see you there, because we're definitely going to be taking things to another level. So be sure to opt in at thenewleaderbootcamp.com. It will not be held on LinkedIn Live. There will be a Zoom link that we'll be sending out for that. So you do need to be opted in. That way you have all the information to attend live with us. And yeah, we're just really excited to have you guys and to host you guys for this session. I think that for any of our new leaders, whether you are someone who has, just gotten into a leadership role, you're just in a position where you're responsible for leading a team of people, maybe you just transitioned out of that individual contributor role, or maybe you have been in the role for a little bit, right? You're a little bit seasoned in your leadership, but you're always just wanting to gain new skills. Or finally, maybe you're not in a leadership role right now, but you aspire to be, right? That's something that you're actively working through with your company, or maybe you're actively seeking a leadership role within a new company. Then you definitely want to be in the building with us. We are going to have a great time. It's going to be very high value. It's going to be pull out your pen and your notepad. We're going to be taking notes. Like, you're going to walk away with so many tangible tips and tricks and skills that you can start implementing today in your leadership. So we'll see you guys in 2 weeks on July 9th. Make sure you opt in at thenewleaderbootcamp.com. But I want to hang out just for a second to see if you guys have any questions or comments or thoughts from today's session. So we have just thoroughly enjoyed having these live sessions over the last 4 weeks. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who made the time to come out. I know that, you guys are probably busy in your workday, whether you're listening into this while you're working or maybe you're on lunch, but we just really appreciate the time. And I think when Brittany and I were kind of deciding to do something like this, we really were just thinking through, like, what is it that leaders need right now? Where are the gaps, and how can we serve with our combined experience, with all of the things that we've been able to do throughout our careers? Like, how can we come together and just heavily serve a group of people? And the New Leader Bootcamp is kind of what we landed on and what we strategized together. So we really hope that you've enjoyed these last few weeks. I don't see any questions in the chat, so I will wrap us up here. But again, thank you so much, and we hope to see you on July 9th. Make sure you opt in at thenewleaderbootcamp.com. Thank you, guys. Talk to you soon.